see now.
I love your background. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. All staged. Of course. Oh,
It looks really good.
Thank you. Right. I think we are live on Facebook. Let me have a look. Hi there, everybody. I'm just going back to my Zoom page. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Coffee and Connect chat. This evening, I am with Annmarie, who is also here in Galway. She lives very, very near to me, and I've had the pleasure of meeting Annmarie and chatting many times. And she introduced me, she and another friend, to essential oils when I first came to Galway. And I have to say, it really had such a great effect on my health, particularly the oils that she uses. And I really wanted to share that with you as part of the health and well-being and alternative therapies for this month. So welcome, Annmarie. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Sue. So nice to be here.
Yeah, good. Thank you too. So where do we begin? First, tell us a bit about you.
So a little bit about me. So my name is Annmarie Murray, and I live in Knocknacarra, so quite close to you is right, Susan.
Yes.
And I am a bioenergy therapist, and I'm a massage therapist, and I have been a customer of the particular brand that I work with, doTERRA Essential Oils, since 2014, and have been building a business with it for the last couple of years.
Oh, so 6 years you've had. And when did you first experience essential oils? How did they come into your life through work, or tell us more about that?
So as a massage therapist, I always would have used essential oils in my massage oil, but I was never aromatherapy trained, so I had no understanding of what they were. I think I knew as much about as anybody else, like as in I knew that lavender was calming.
Yes.
Very, very basics.
Yeah.
But it was actually when I was a friend of mine, Martin, I had been speaking to him a little bit about the fact that he obviously knew I was a massage therapist. He'd come to me for massages, and he was asking me about the type of oils that I used in my treatment. And I literally just got them at the suppliers, the same place that I would have got all my other products. So he said to me that a friend of his had come back from Australia and had brought along a specific grade of essential oil that I like to meet her. And I thought, fine, I wasn't, I didn't really think a huge amount of it.
Yeah.
So this lady came into me, and I thought that she was going to be speaking to me about the oils for my massage business. But we got into a very different conversation because she started to tell me a little bit about her health, and she started asking me questions about my health, which at the time would have been quite poor. I would have had quite a poor immune system, suffered really badly with sinuses, had quite poor sleep, quite bad back pain.
Yeah, that sounds like quite normal to a lot of people.
Yes, and to me it was totally normal, as in I wasn't, I didn't think that I had particularly bad health, but the sinuses were quite an issue for me.
Yeah.
And my digestive health. So at the time I'd spent a lot of money on a lot of both traditional options and holistic and other therapies to try and help me to clear them. So when she started speaking to me about essential oils, being honest with you, I was incredibly skeptical. I really did not think that this was going to be the thing to make a change for me. Yeah. That was my first introduction. Not really being anything really sure about what I was getting into, really, or what I was actually getting. So
yeah. But as you think, you've tried everything else, so nothing to lose.
That was exactly where I was at. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So you tried some specifically for your ailments at that time?
Yes, exactly. So I picked, I think it was 4 essential oils. And so the ones that I picked were related to my sinuses, my digestive system, and my sleep. They were kind of my, suppose, my main ailment at the time. So I started applying 2 of the essential oils along my spine at night time, and I started using the peppermint blend, pressing it to the roof of my mouth and applying it topically over my stomach. And I noticed such a massive difference in my health really, really quickly. Within, I think it was less than a month, I was sleeping through the night, which was amazing because at the time I was only getting about maybe 4 hours sleep a night. Very, very broken. So it was life-changing for me. And then over the space of kind of, the next couple of years, it wasn't like as in, you know, flipping a switch, but everything in my health kind of started to change. I started gradually integrating them into my lifestyle and into my health. And since then, touch wood, all of those ailments have completely gone, and I use them now more for emotional well-being and supporting my health, as opposed to having ailments that I'm looking to cure. So I'm using it more proactively than reactively these days.
Yes, yes, so exactly. So yeah, wow. What, may I ask just there, what do you use for the sinus? Just that's come up to me because that's something I struggle with.
So the protocol, I think, that really made the difference to me was I twice a day I would put a drop of peppermint on my thumb and press it to the roof of my mouth.
Okay.
And the other blend is called Zengest, the digestive blend,
Yes.
which is basically designed to help to stop that kind of, we'll say, reactivity of excess mucus. So, and it also breaks down older mucus. So I applied that over my stomach and in around the sinus tract twice daily. That was my oils protocol. And then there was a digestive enzyme called Terrazyme, and that was it. Once I started taking that, that was my game changer. My sinus is completely cleared. And since then, they've never come back, even though I don't use that protocol anymore.
Wow. Okay, because I've actually got both of those oils, the peppermint
Yep.
and the digest zen, isn't it?
Yes.
That's what
Yep.
but I didn't know. So tell us, coming on to that, the essential oils you use, I know, are a very high grade, and what I love about them is that they can be used internally and externally. Some of them. Can you tell us, with essential oils, what is the difference? Like, I know when I started using oils, I would like that, just go to the health shop and I'd look and I go, well, there can be such a variety out there. One doesn't really know which to choose. Like, you might think, well, that's the cheaper one. Okay, I'll go for one up. Or what's the difference with the highest one and the lowest one? And ones that you say can buy online, ones in health shops versus in pharmacies elsewhere. Where does one begin? You know, because you could throw away a lot of money, and that's the problem with a lot of these alternative therapies and herbs and vitamins. Say, you know, you can just buy what's on the shelf and feel like, well, it's not working for you, so you don't bother. So a lot of these therapies, I feel, can get a lot of bad press because a lot of these just have fillers, or they're not of a very high grade or certified grade. So I think with choosing any alternative therapy, you really should go through a therapist to find out which you should use to save your money and for your own health. So how does one practice discernment in how to choose? Back to that question. The long-winded question.
No problem. That's actually a really great question. And one of the reasons why I was particularly interested in doTERRA was because when the girl spoke to me, she told me that they were very big on education. I'm a little bit of a nerd. I love to learn about something, particularly when I'm interested in things, and I am interested in my health. So I was really excited because it's exactly like you said. You can go into the health food shop, you can buy these herbs, you can buy them online, you can buy these oils, but then you're often left not knowing where to start, what to do with them, how to approach them. So doTERRA are really, really big on making sure that we have education, and loads of it is actually free. The problem, I guess, at the moment is and when doTERRA started their company in 2008, there is no regulation on a lot of the holistic world, and on essential oils in particular. So when you go into the health food shop, you will see lots and lots of oils. You'll notice a couple of things. The first thing is that they're all pretty much the same price, which I never really thought about. But when I did actually look into the sourcing and where these oils are taken from, so say, for example, I would have bought lots of lemon oil. And I would have also particularly liked oils like frankincense. So I used to buy those a lot for my massage blends. And they were pretty much the same price, bar like a couple of euro in the difference. But lemons grow in an orchard with thousands of other lemon trees with really bountiful fruits. Frankincense is taken from countries like Somalia and Oman, where these trees grow out on a cliff. The bark has to be tapped, scraped. There's a massive protocol that goes through it. So for me to be looking at those on a shelf and them to be the same price, it's only now that makes sense how ridiculous that was.
Yes.
The problem is that the other thing you'll notice is that they will all say 100% pure on the side of the bottle. And that, unfortunately, label doesn't mean anything much, because there is no regulation on the amount of the actual pure essential oil that has to be in that bottle. So sometimes there could be 5 drops, sometimes there could be 50 drops. We just don't know. And the problem with that is, if you're just looking for them to just be a scent in your home, that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. I would prefer people to be using those than, like, let's say, synthetic candles and things. But you're not going to get the therapeutic quality. You're not going to be able to put those in your mouth. You're not going to be able to put them neat on your skin without dilution. And you certainly wouldn't be using them for medicinal properties for yourself or for your children.
Right.
And the other side to them is there's a kind of, I guess, a thing with purity. So you can grow lavender in your back garden. You can take it to a distillery, and that will be pure. That can be pure lavender. So you could look at that bottle and say that's pure lavender oil. But the other thing with them is that each essential oil has its own unique chemistry. And when they're studied under a lab, you get the best results from where the plant grows best in the world. So if you're growing lavender in your back garden in Ireland, it's not going to be the same chemistry or the same compounds that are in it as where that plant is naturally from, which is native to Bulgaria and France. So that is where doTERRA source their lavender from, and they go all around the world to source their essential oils. They don't own their own farms or anything like that. They literally will have them in around the world where they know the plant grows best, so they can invest in these farms and in these communities around the world. So they're lifting up farmers and lifting up a lot of third world communities where these oils are sourced. Which is another big part of what their mission is in the world.
That's great to know. Yeah, because it makes a massive difference. And as you say, if you're growing, your plants here, the society tends to be very toxic, and so how can a plant, say, at my garden, not that I'm in the city, but if I was, be as pure as one that grows naturally, say in the south of France or wherever, if we're talking about lavender. So that's very important to know where your oils are sourced, right? Yeah. And tell me another thing. Okay, so we know now we got to check where the oils are from. And when you say they're therapeutic grade versus what else would just general use?
I guess this is the other thing. So there isn't actually a grade on them. So doTERRA set up their own grade. Theirs is called Certified Pure Therapeutic Grade. Okay. And what they wanted was that you could pick up that bottle and you would know that there was nothing else in that bottle but essential oils. Yes. So often what I get people, if it's possible, the company that they're buying from, to ask them what their testing is like. So doTERRA are really transparent with their testing. You can go to www.sourcetoyou.com, and every single bottle has its own little individual number on the bottom, and you can check where that was, what month and where that was sourced from in the world. You can check the seismograph, the print off report of the testing coming back from the lab, so you can see exactly what's in that bottle. So doTERRA don't just test in-house, we'll say. They send it out to a third party, and they send it back to them to say that, yes, this is just 100% lavender in this bottle, or 100% peppermint. It's not just them saying that they have nothing in the bottle but essential oil, because we could all say that.
Of course. Yeah.
If we were selling them. So yes, they're really transparent. So I think if you are, it's quite difficult sometimes, depending on the company, for them to let you know what testing they're doing, but that's often a warning light to me. If a company is not transparent in their procedures, then that to me is a little bit alarming. And I guess, again, this is something that I would not have thought of years ago. It's only in recent years, since I've got educated around all of this, that I'm more mindful of it. And it's the same with words like organic. They mean quite different things depending on the country and the regulations. So I'm more looking at what's the meaning behind these labels now as well.
Yeah, exactly, because we could be really fooled, and how are we to know any different if we can't trust what we're told and what's written on the label? So that's really important. And so when we say with some of doTERRA oils that can be taken internally, what is the benefits, or are there greater benefits to being able, now it's very important to take note that you can't take all essential oils internally. So one needs to be careful of that. But what is the difference or the benefits of taking internally versus on your skin or in a diffuser, or how else can one use essential oils?
Well, you've actually covered it. So we have three ways that we can use them. We can use them exactly like you said. So the first way that we can use them is aromatically. So we can put them in a diffuser. So not to be mixed up with an oil burner. We don't want to burn our oils, because when we heat them up, we're actually destroying the therapeutic benefits. We don't want to heat them up. A diffuser is literally a cold vapor steam that we put out, and we can use aromatic when we're looking for the mood benefits, so the uplifting qualities that essential oils can bring us. And obviously the respiratory support attached to that as well. If we want to clean odors in our air, if we want to kill germs and bacteria in the air, we can diffuse certain essential oils that are going to help us with that. Topically, we put them on the skin. So if I had an ache or a pain in my shoulder, I could apply an oil like peppermint or a blend like Deep Blue to my shoulder to give me relief from that. I could apply oils over my stomach if I had like a large meal and I wanted some digestive relief. I could apply them over my stomach.
Yeah.
Or if so, internally is quite specific to doTERRA. I would take oils internally. Like I add lemon oil to my water throughout the day. I used to put slices of lemon in my water, and I found that I was getting really bad damage to the enamel on my teeth, because the citrus fruit is obviously quite acidic to the teeth. So the oil is taken from the rind. The essential oil is in the rind of the lemon. So that's cold pressed down and extracted. So when I add that to my water, I get the exact same benefits from the lemon, but I don't get any of that, the damage to the enamel. And it's obviously a much more potent form of the plant rather than the flesh of the fruit.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I use that as like a way to help to kind of cleanse my digestive system, my liver, my kidneys, anything like that. That would be why I would take essential oils internally. So there are some oils that are more beneficial to take that way. And if we're looking for what I would call an overall systemic effect. So if I wanted to calm my system down, I would be more inclined to use it internally versus a topical application. If it's something that if I have a headache, I'm not going to take an oil internally. I'm going to apply it to the area where I can reach it. But if I can't, if I'm looking for more overall benefit, then I will take the oil internally. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense.
That does. Yeah, that does. That definitely does. And I also recall using them aromatically, you shouldn't use for more than 8 hours at a time.
Would they say that's kind of would say like after that, it depends on the area and the environment that you're in. I definitely think that if you're in a home environment and you have a diffuser on and you're coming in and out of the room, then you can't overdose on them as such.
Yeah.
So really, it's more that you are kind of, I suppose, you stop getting as much of the benefit if it's a prolonged use. So you'll have diffusers where they'll switch on and off every 15 minutes. So we're getting re-stimulated with the scent.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because I wondered about that. Very interesting. Yeah. So where on the body are the points that one would generally or gain most benefit from applying the oils? And how many drops generally should you get a little bottle, and it's like me at the start, I'm like, oh, well, just kind of shake it out and rub it on wherever I feel. But maybe you can teach us now properly I know now, but you can tell us the points where it's most beneficial.
Yeah, perfect. So if I was looking to benefit my mood, I guess, okay, so I would apply them to the area where you're basically turning yourself into like a human diffuser. So our blood tends to run closer to the surface at the pulse points where we would apply perfume. So here kind of would say the size of the neck, on the pulse points at the wrists, behind the knees. They would be the areas where I would apply the oils if I was looking to increase my mood, basically, because the oils are warmer at that point. They're warmed up on the skin, and you're basically diffusing them off yourself, so you're getting the benefits of the inhalation.
Oh, I get it. Oh, yeah. Okay, I like that.
I apply oils a lot over my heart, and what I kind of do is I apply them there because obviously that's energetically kind of would say your heart center, but also I can then throughout the day fluff my jumper like this, so I get like little wafts of the essential oil up through my nose anytime I want like a fresh hit, as I call it, of the fragrance that I'm using.
Yeah.
That is
Oh,
how I
okay.
would use them. So that would be how I would use them for mood. And then obviously if you're looking for kind of, we'll say, more for help with sleep or for calming the mind, I would be more inclined to apply them to like the back of my neck, where they're kind of, we'll say, easier going to get into our bloodstream, into the nervous system along the spine, and into kind of, we'll say, some of the oils like frankincense actually can help to penetrate the blood-brain barrier, so that nice calming effect on the mind and on our mood.
Whoa. Am I mistaken that the soles of the feet are a good place?
Yes, they are. I actually apply oils for my immune system a lot of the time to the soles of the feet, because
Okay.
typically they are like spicier oils, if we call them that, like as in the likes of oregano, we would consider a warmer oil on the skin.
Yes. Yes.
So I apply them to the soles of the feet, because of the soles of the feet, the skin there tends to be a little bit thicker. So I apply my immune supporting oil to them. People who are quite into reflexology will apply their oils to the pulse points on the feet. But I think, to be honest with you, for doing that, you also have to kind of work them in, like as in with like pressure points from the fingers and thumbs to stimulate those points. And my rule of thumb is, if you can access the area in the body where you can apply the essential oil, that is where I would apply it. If you're looking for an overall effect, I would apply it to soles of the feet or to along the spine, or the oils that can be taken internally. That will be my rule of thumb. Now, this differs slightly person to person, but that's always been the rule of thumb that I've gone by, and it's worked really, really well for me. So.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Yeah. And so do you use these then in your practice, or is it different? And have you any stories you can tell us of people who would have like ailments that you can tell us how they worked? Any,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Yes, so I do
great.
use it in my clinic. I wouldn't be able to go back to using the old essential oils I was using after finding out, if I'm honest with you. There is a difference in price for doTERRAs, because of the fact they're sourcing them how, as I say, the price that we're supposed to pay for our oils. But I'm willing to absorb the cost, because I know that my clients are going to get far better results.
Yes, yeah.
So I use them in my practice. I use them in my massages. I use them with my energy clients, and I also have the doTERRA have put together actually a treatment. So this is something that parents can use in their homes, carers can use if they're looking after somebody. It's a really simple technique called Aromatouch, but I offer it in my clinic, and it's an application of 8 different essential oils along the spine and on the soles of the feet, so it's the meridian points in the body. And it is designed to be reducing for stress, for helping the immune system, for lowering pain and inflammation, and for just generally kind of would say overall well-being, basically. And it's one of my absolute favorite treatments to do, and my clinic always smells amazing after I do it.
Yeah, and I'm sure you benefit too, because you're inhaling all these gorgeous therapeutic oils. Oh, how lovely. Yeah. And so right, so you've told us that you've used it like for back pain. So let's look at some of the ailments that people might have at the moment, the general. So you said like emotional. What about stress, overwhelm? Let's look at that emotional side. What would you recommend for people?
So that is actually one of the biggest areas that I love to help people with, if I'm honest with you. And one of the reasons why I actually had a little bit of good feeling during the last lockdown was because I felt like, you know, there was so many people who were dealing with so much stress and overwhelm, but I loved doing the consultations and the calls, because they were coming to me for something that I knew that I could offer them support with. And it was lovely feeling to it, because I mean, I had a lot of consultations, a lot of phone calls during those 3 months, and people were really, really feeling just completely at the end of their rope with lots of different issues and all the rest of it. So I suppose I take it on a quite targeted approach in terms of what are your biggest stressors that you're dealing with? What is the anxiety? What's it coming up around? And this year, one of the main oils that I've been recommending is a blend called Adaptive. So it comes in a 15 ml size, and it comes in a rollerball size. And I think that doTERRA must have invented this with 2020 in mind. It only came out last year. But it is all about being able to adapt to changing environments. Because when we're often, the reason for anxiousness is stuff is changing. We're not sure of what's coming next. And the idea of this oil is it helps to actually relax and calm the immune system, or the nervous system. So we're actually able to to deal, or to kind of, we'll say, get the mind calm, get the body relaxed, be able to kind of soothe the heart flow, all the rest of it, so that we're actually able to deal with all the challenges that life is throwing at us, which we don't always have control over what's coming at us, but we can change our response to it. So, which is something you teach about all the time.
Yeah. And then if you have that, like what I like what you said is you're using it's rather use it as a proactive measure daily rather than waiting till you need it. So you've it's part of your daily well-being maintenance, you know.
Absolutely,
okay, that's a really nice one. What was the name of that one again? I'm going to write it down.
So it's adaptive. So ADAPTIV.
Okay, great. Well, we'll give all your details anyway in the link at the end, how people can access more information. So another thing we talk about there is immunity. Massive thing. Tell me how we can support ourselves there, Annmarie.
Right. Okay. So this is something that I'm really passionate about, because, as I said, my immune system was really poor. I was always run down and always sick. And I was in that cycle so much that I genuinely, I knew that feeling of going to bed knowing something was coming on, and just that dread, because there was nothing that I could do about it, basically. So I am obsessed, and I would hold my hands up and say there's a blend that doTERRA stock called On Guard that I just think has been my saving grace. So anytime that I feel that you know the feeling when something's coming on, I think we all do. So at that stage, that's where I would use On Guard on a proactive basis. But there's times when our system is kind of, we'll say, quite overwhelmed, when we're rushing and racing, lots of stress, and particularly when we're coming into the winter months, I would use that up the ante. So I apply that one on the soles of my feet at nighttime. Our immune system actually works harder at nighttime. So that is a great time to support it with something that's going to, like, you know, if you're taking vitamin C and things like that, I usually recommend taking them at nighttime, because your immune system needs that little bit of extra work. And if it's trying to fight off stuff in your system, that's when it's going to really kick into gear to take it. So how you always work for our immune system is by supporting it. So we often are told when we have like the common cold, to go home, because there's nothing that can be done. And the reason for that is antibiotics are fantastic, but bacteria occur on the outside of the cell. So viruses, like the common cold, take place inside a cell. So when antibiotics are created, they're created synthetically. So they're water-based, and our cells are fat-based. So it's the oil and water don't mix thing. So essential oils actually aren't oils, they're actually fatty acids. So they can pass through the wall of the cell, and they have so many studies done around this in the last few years, how actually what happens is that the essential oil disrupts the communication, because when like a little kind of virus or a little bacteria gets into our cell, it spreads in our body by communicating with the cells around it. So the essential oil simply doesn't interfere with anything that your body's doing, but it stops them being able to communicate, so that our antibodies and our white blood cells, all of these things, can actually have the time to go in and do the work that they're supposed to do. So that is why we don't get any side effects from them. You're never going to pick up a bottle of essential oil and read side effects may include X, Y, Z on it, because they're not trying to interfere with how our body works. They're trying to support it naturally. So I hope that makes sense.
Oh, that's really interesting and really good. Very easily put, and I didn't know that. That's very interesting, and it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's very good. So for immunity, I know lemon.
Yes,
lemon
is
and
really
On Guard, you had said there.
Yeah. I would have my favorite blend for respiratory support would be a blend called Air, which is really popular this time of the year. And we also have Melaleuca, or tea tree as it's more commonly known. All of those will be really, really supportive for our immune health at this time of the year. And we can kind of mix and match, I guess, depending on what our ailment is. And then obviously frankincense has probably the most immune responsive oils in it. So that is a really fantastic one to have in your collection as well. So typically what I say to people is, if you can, when I teach classes, so I teach classes every week, and what I get people to do at the end of it is, if they tell me what their top 3 health concerns are at the moment, what their top 3 challenges in their home are, that's usually where I get people to start. Because it can be quite overwhelming coming into something like if you've never used essential oils before, like I was at the start, I really didn't know where to begin. And if she hadn't given me, pick your top 3 things and this is where you start, I think I probably would have just put them aside on a shelf and they may not have gotten used. Whereas when I had a targeted approach like that, it was so much easier for me to integrate them into my healthcare and into my well-being and into my daily routine, basically. So
definitely, otherwise you don't know where to begin.
Exactly.
It's like a minefield. Wow, that's great. And so I know, so as regards viruses, and so we've just said basically On Guard, lemon, just reiterating that for myself, really. On Guard,
frankincense.
And frankincense has such a beautiful scent, especially coming up to Christmas. I just love that scent. Anyway, to diffuse it.
On Guard is that really like cinnamon and wild orange, the Christmassy scent, and then frankincense is that really warm, woody scent. So they're so beautiful.
yeah, they absolutely are. Gosh, that's really good. So people, another one would be sitting at your desk now. A lot of people working from home or spending too much time at their desk. Maybe they haven't invested or got a proper chair, whatever setup they're using. So for the neck, the shoulders.
Yeah, so there's a rub that I love called Deep Blue, and this was one of the first products that I got for my backache, and it's literally a cream. And how it works is most people are familiar with the cream Deep Heat.
Yes.
So it's not like that. It's made up with essential oils. So it doesn't actually heat up or cool the body. It actually responds to whatever is going on in your system. So if we have a lot of inflammation, we often don't want to put heat on inflammation. Okay, that's not what we want. We want it to cool. But if you're literally just sitting there when you've got a sore neck and shoulder and you don't know whether it's inflammation or you don't know whether it's tension and you don't know whether it's hot or cold on it, if you put your Deep Blue on, your body actually knows what to do with it. So when you apply that, sometimes you'll feel it warming and sometimes you'll feel it cooling, depending on what's going on within the muscle tissue. And it's all about helping, again, the body to actually repair itself. So we're not dampening down the body's immune response or inflammatory response, which there's more studies coming out at the moment about, overuse of anti-inflammatories and things like that, which obviously are necessary in some cases, but doctors are kind of tending to be a little bit less hesitant to kind of prescribe them as much now, because there's more study into the fact that we're dampening down the body's response. So I think people are tending to be leaning towards more natural and more effective options, because natural options are great, but we also need things that work.
Yeah, that's definitely for sure. Yeah, you're right.
So that cream applied to like neck and shoulders, like lower back, it's just it's so soothing, and you get that. The lovely thing about it is you're not taking a tablet and waiting for the relief. You get that instant cooling sensation or instant warming sensation, depending on what's going on. So it's really, really effective to use, and a pea-sized amount will cover your whole shoulder. So a little goes a long way with them. So yeah.
That's really good. Something you mentioned there as well is inflammation. So we all know that like stress, anxiety, all of that, that cortisol that's released produces inflammation or creates inflammation in the body, as well as so many other factors. Maybe you could tell us a bit about that. And also that we know that chronic inflammation in the body causes disease. And so that is something that we really do need to be aware of. And can the oils, or can you give advice of how we can support ourselves in that way?
Absolutely. So oils, definitely. So I actually love oils like lemon. So lemon is really effective for this because one of the reasons, have you ever had the experience of when you're really stressed and you're really overwhelmed, and imagine if you're looking for like your keys and you look and you look and you look and you can't find them, and you're so like, people are asking you questions and you can't even think straight.
Yeah, they're at the end of the handbag, Annmarie. They're always at the end of the handbag.
So the reason that's happening is because cortisol is actually attacking, can you say, the cells in our receptors. And there's an ingredient in lemon oil called limonene, and it actually interrupts that cortisol from damaging the body's kind of, we'll say, response. So anytime that we're looking at a stress response, we're usually looking at an inflammatory response.
Yes.
So I get people really to get into the habit of managing their stress. For me, it's probably the most important way that we can manage our inflammation is to manage our stress.
Right.
And for people getting out of this idea that stress has to be a negative thing, because I absolutely love my job. I absolutely adore it, but I am still really, really busy. And my body does not know the difference between good stress and bad stress. It takes it all the same way. So it's really important for people to get that separation in their minds. And I absolutely love oils like that that are really going to help to support that. There obviously are oils like frankincense and an oil called copaiba, which are higher in this level to be able to kind of, we'll say, promote a healthy inflammatory response, as we call it. But I often think it's definitely stress management is probably the most important thing that people can do.
Great. That's really great. Another thing you picked up on there was passing, with the oils being able to pass the blood-brain barrier.
Yes, some of them can, yes.
Yeah, can you explain a little bit about that?
Yes, so again, it's kind of like, remember I was talking about the water-soluble ingredients and the fat in our cells. So around our brain, it's basically like a massive version of that. So synthetic kind of, we'll say, medications are not allowed to pass through the blood-brain barrier. It's a protective thing.
Okay.
Oils like frankincense and patchouli have ingredients in them called sesquiterpenes that can actually pass through the blood-brain barrier. So they allow that calming effect on the mind. So it's basically like that kind of calming the cortisol response, impacting the hippocampus, which is the part of the brain that's kind of, we'll say, often going to stimulate the stress response. If we get that before we get to that stage, we can often interrupt that pattern of us going in and having a massive stress response, which often is a massive trigger for people for anxiousness and things like that. So really effective.
Right. So so going for one of those, it would be a really good option if you struggle with stress and anxiety. And one of those that noting which ones would pass the blood-brain barrier, because you'll get that quicker response, or you'll get the...
Yeah, so you can use the oils two ways to get that response. So again, oils, as I say, like frankincense and patchouli do that. But when we talked about, I actually mentioned aromatic in terms of the diffuser, but aromatic just means breathing them in. So oftentimes, imagine an oil like Adaptive. I get people to put a drop into the palm of their hands to rub the palms together and to breathe the oils in. Because at the base of our nose, we have a bulb called the olfactory senses, which are connected to our limbic system, which is the part of our brain that influences mood. So if we can get to that, we're also going to stop that stress response from triggering. And if we can actually use that to influence our mood. So if you have a day where you're feeling really calm and really happy and really joyful, and you smell an oil in that moment when you're feeling that way, the next time you're going to a stress response, you can smell the oil, because it's basically a way to, because that same part of our brain is connected with memory, we can trigger that same emotional response that we had in that day by smelling something.
Very interesting. Gosh, it sounds like the way to go, doesn't it? Because the more chemicals, the more medications, say, we're taking, our systems just become toxic, and then you feel like you can have that. I know in the past, I've taken endless medication for sinus, and it's just like this ongoing cycle, and you can become like, you can feel very toxic. So it's really nice to have an alternative, effective, natural remedy, rather than going out and not knowing where to begin and kind of like reading on the internet, and it's hit and miss, and you're wasting your money, and then you think it doesn't work, and it's a vicious cycle. And what did I want to say there now? Oh, it's gone out of my head. I'm going to see if anybody has questions while I think. We have Emer Minnock here is saying, yes, she loves On Guard. And I know she uses doTERRA essential oils as well. And if anybody has any questions for any ailments, that's what I was going to ask there, was if our systems do feel very toxic, And I know, like you mentioned, eating, overeating, which also can be a thing around Christmas, or overindulging in all sorts of things. Okay, so we can go through the, you know what, we're all human and we all like to let go sometimes. We can go through, first of all, overindulgence, if it's like those who love a few drinks, or, you know, that extra portion or 2 or 3 of what they shouldn't maybe be having. You know what, we all, you know, you want to live, you want to enjoy. What can support someone in that area? Is there, besides you saying just don't do it?
No, absolutely not. So there is a blend called Smart and Sassy.
Okay. I like that name.
It's very clever.
Sounds like you.
So it is designed to help us on a couple of different ways. So there is it's made up with cinnamon, with peppermint, with grapefruit, and it is basically designed to help us to balance our blood sugars. So often when we're quite familiar these days with people kind of speaking to us about like not overdoing sugar in our diets, things like that. So this is designed to help to manage sugar cravings by balancing those levels. So they're not looking for that next spike or that hit of sugar.
The cravings, yeah.
Yeah. It also manages appetite in the same way. So often get people, if they are inclined to go for second and third portions, or if they're, you know, people who emotionally eat, they're eating almost out of habit.
Yes.
So people take a couple of drops of this in a glass of water before their meal or throughout the day if they're feeling that craving, and it really helps to stop that pattern of overeating. And what happens is it really makes a difference to you naturally, I think, tend to clean up your diet that little bit. You're not tending to want those unhealthy choices that we can sometimes make in those moments, because emotionally as well, it's attached to us honoring our bodies and having respect for our bodies. And, you know, because sometimes we don't, we've grown up possibly with unhealthy paradigms around our bodies and our food choices and all the rest of it. So it's helped to kind of break that cycle, basically. So I love that one.
That's fantastic, because emotional eating would also be a big thing through, you know, COVID. Globally, people tend to, if you don't have strategies in place, you tend to go for maybe unhelpful coping mechanisms. So, and one of those is eating. As we know, it falsely gives you comfort. And then, of course, that can spiral out of control. So that would be a really great one, actually, to use. Yeah, for. And what about that, like, feeling of you know, if your body just feels, first of all, sluggish, and then like just toxic, if you want to have a good detox, so your body feels cleansed and just pure and clear, what would you recommend there?
So they have a supplement called GX Assist, which is basically like doing a gut cleanse. So it is made up with oregano, melaleuca, thyme, and peppermint. And what they do is basically flush the gut out. So it's like doing a natural antibiotic. But one of the problems that we have with antibiotics is it will kill off everything else in the gut, but it doesn't kill off candida. So people often find that they would get outbreaks of thrush and things like that after taking course of antibiotics.
Yeah.
But oregano kills off candida, and candida is actually a massive reason why we have sugar cravings in the first place, particularly in the Western diet, and particularly in Ireland. We're quite fond of carbohydrates.
Yes.
Which unfortunately are broken down into sugars in our body, and they feed this fungus called candida, which overgrows and it will create the body cravings for more sugar, basically. So it kills all that off. You're basically left with a clean palate. So it's a really good flusher for the gut. So if people are dealing with kind of, say, bloating or digestive issues or things like that, this is a really good one. And you basically then will do like a course of probiotics afterwards to replenish and put healthy gut bacteria. So I do that twice a year. I do it in September for my immune system coming into the winter, and I do it again in January because, as you said, we're human and sometimes we do tend to do a little bit of overindulgence in the Christmas period. So
and that's okay too. Okay,
yes,
gosh. Yeah, that's really good to know. Really good. I'm going to have to make a whole list of all of these things. Yeah. And if anybody has any questions of any ailments or anything they'd like to ask Annmarie, please do feel free. Or if you're watching on playback, you can pop some questions in. What else, Annmarie? What else can we think of? There's the immunity, I know is huge, the emotional eating, that's great, the stress, sleep, as you say, lavender for sleep. Well, that's the well-known. Is there anything better or, you know, that you would recommend?
So I find lavender an interesting one. Okay, so here's the thing with lavender. If you are somebody who, the reason that you are not sleeping is because if you're somebody who's quite sensitive, the reason that you're not sleeping sometimes is that your mind is quite chattery.
Yeah.
Lavender is what we call emotionally the oil of communication. So if I'm trying to tap in a little bit more to my inner voice, I'll apply lavender to my third eye. But if you're quite intuitive or empathetic, or you're kind of quite a sensitive energy person, if you apply lavender before sleep, you can find that it sometimes turns up the volume on that inner voice. So it's so for some people, lavender works like a dream and really calms them and soothes them. But there's a certain percentage of the population that is not going to work for. And if you are under that category, I often tend to get people to go for more woody based oils, which are more grounding and calming. So for me, I loved the blend called Balance, which is made up of lots of tree oils, and I found that was one of the very first oils that I got that really helped to kind of just shut my mind up basically and allow me to go to sleep.
Yeah, that would be a great one for now as well, just because if you're not getting your sleep, then it's really hard to function properly and to feel well and to feel good. And that's what we all want to feel, is happy and good in ourselves, and grounding ourselves would be very, very important at the moment. So balance, and to do that in conjunction with other things. And would you recommend, I know we spoke about a proactive preventative measure, would you recommend with these oils to have that few, so maybe like you said, your top 3 things that are recurringly a challenge for you, and to use the oils that you would recommend on an ongoing basis, or every 3 months, or what would you recommend there?
So if people are dealing with ailments, or they're just kind of looking to more have overall well-being, one of the tips that I give people is, particularly when you're starting off, to leave them on your bedside locker and use them first thing in the morning and last thing at night. So if you forget for the rest of the day, at least you've used them twice a day. On ending in the day. And if you want to take that one step further, pop them in your handbag, or at the moment when we're working from home, we could have them on our desk. And anytime during the day that you want to kind of have that little bit of a stress relief, you could put on your diffuser beside your desk, or you could put a couple of drops of the oil into the palm of the hand and breathe them in if you're looking to kind of support more of your emotional well-being. And the physical stuff, if you've got, like, we'll say, immune system issues, things like that, you can still use those morning and evening, bookend your day with the well-being. And that's, I put in a lot of my routines on the beginning and the end of my day, because I find it's the time of the day where I know I can control, whereas in between lots of different stuff can come up, you know, stuff with kids can come up, lots of different stuff. So that's my tip for people starting off anyways.
Yeah, great. And something we were talking about last week, and because we like to support women too, being women and caring about other women, you know, the menopause is a thing that's coming up a lot, and emotion or hormonal balance. And I know you're passionate, I know, about helping and supporting women and emotional support. So for that area, is there any support or advice that you could give to ladies who may be experiencing some of that?
Absolutely. So I actually do a continuous education talk once a month around hormonal balance specifically, because it's always my most popular talk. I get so many people to that one because it's such a big issue that so many people are dealing with. We cover all areas from like menopausal to people with their cycle, to liver, to thyroid, all of that whole emotional or that hormonal trio, I guess.
Yes.
So for people who are dealing with, if you're just looking for general hormonal balance, there's 2 products that I love. It is an oil called Claricam, which is a blend made up to help us to balance our hormones naturally, and a supplement called phytoestrogen. which a lot of today what we're talking about is we have an overdose of toxic load. So we have chemical cleaning products in our home, stuff we put on our skin. And the image that my friend Siobhan uses is, imagine if you have a box of eggs and you take one egg out and you put a Cadbury's cream egg in its place. So these xenoestrogens that we get through these synthetic fragrances, particularly in our products, sit into the cell receptor site and pretend and they look like estrogen. So your body thinks that that's estrogen in the system. And that creates the body to either stop producing, or on the flip side of that, start overproducing estrogen, and our hormones get completely out of whack with them. So this supplement is just a natural herbal complex, and it is designed to help the body to naturally detox those. So it helps the body to then regulate its estrogen properly again. So that is the best one that I have found for people. For women have come back to me and said their cycles have come back to regularity for the first time in years. Their skin has improved. They're using it to get through the menopause, you know, all of these issues that people are dealing with, and that they think, you know, when they go to the doctor, for women, particularly with their cycle, I'm not sure if you've experienced this, but they're often told, you're a woman, you know, this is part of the pack, really, isn't it? So, which is very devastating for people to hear that. So I love to be able to give people solutions that are natural and that are really effective, that work as well.
Yeah, wow. That's really good. Tell us, when is that talk on? Or maybe if you can give me details, I'll put it in a link after.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not. We have the date set for it, but I'm not sure if I have my diary beside me here to check.
We can add it in, because that would be really useful to be able to add in your events and what you do. Yeah. And another thing I know that's coming up for people wearing these masks. Now, if we talk about skin, is like this getting like infection around the mouth. And is there anything that you would recommend to boost the skin, to help us feel fabulous and, you know, have that radiant look that you always have?
Yep. So for the whole maskne thing, as we call it, my favorite oils for support for that would be the melaleuca, the lemon, and the copaiba. They would be my favorite ones for management of that, because the copaiba would be anti-inflammatory, so it takes down the redness, and the lemon and the melaleuca would have that lovely antibacterial qualities, so help the skin to actually process to heal it up that little bit quicker for it. And they have a whole skincare range, and again, I do a skincare talk once a month. I just had it last night, actually. So it's basically, I guess, it's all about, I guess, natural management of skincare. But I think my favorite tip for people and their skin with the mask is, if you can get a mask that has a silk lining inside it, it tends not to create as much friction on the skin. And if you're somebody who deals with the feeling of anxiousness around wearing your mask, you can actually put a little drop of the essential oil in it. I love peppermint and the air oil inside mine, because it gives me that feeling of easier, clearer breathing. And I know that they say they don't actually physically impact your breathing, but it's almost a psychological feeling of it that bothers me. So I find when I have a drop of that inside my mask, that it soothes that feeling for me quite a lot. So
that's actually a really good idea. Yeah, especially for like kids going to school. I know they're getting used to it now, but if they still have that anxiety around it, and adults, to have a drop in the mask is a really nice idea. And when you get these oils, right, if you pick your top 3, and I know they can contact you as well. And I know I got this book, and it's fabulous. And what I love about this is, if something comes up for me, I can check, you know, what the ailment is, what oil to use, how to use it. Because if you think, okay, well, my issue is XYZ, I get the oils, and I know your oils, these doTERRA oils, you can only buy online. You can't buy in the store, which is important to know. And you need to know how to use it, you know, and that doesn't come on the bottle. You need to inform yourself. So what would you recommend is the best way for people to know how to use these properly?
Great.
Yeah, we can Google, but it's nice to go through somebody, and maybe this is where you come in, of how to use this properly, to attend your talks, you know, because we don't want to misuse the products. We want to gain the best, get the best use out of it.
Safely and effectively. Yeah, exactly. So the other thing that doTERRA are really big on is, as well as education, they're big on community. So what I suggest is, a lot of people now, when I started using these first, there was very few people in Ireland using them, but right now there is. And if you have a friend or something like that that's actually building a business with these, the same as me, I ask you to reach out to that person and they can help to support you to get your oils. I personally am very big on education. So when people get their oils through me, I do a one-on-one consultation with them to help them decide what oils they want to get. And then we do another one when their oils arrive, so that they feel like they're really confident in what they're doing with them. And then I plug you in with apps to use, like that give you kind of an idea of what books to get. And I also have a Facebook group and a WhatsApp group. And the end of this month, please God, I'm going to be launching my new website, where I'll have a whole members area for people who are on my team, that they can come and they can actually get training videos and have frequently asked questions. And I'll be putting lots more education into that area, so that because the thing with doTERRA is, it's about empowering people. Yes. We want to hand over the power to other people, because I know myself, it was one of the most disempowering thing to be waiting for to wait for the pharmacy to open, to wait for the doctors to open, to have to go to somebody else to fix your problems. When you have something natural and effective that works at home that you can take immediately, that often nips it in the bud so much quicker. And particularly for people who are dealing maybe with more chronic ailments, they can often feel like all their power has been taken away from them, that there's nothing that they can do for themselves anymore. So even if you want to just use the oils to support your emotional well-being, you'd be so amazed at how much of a difference that makes for people when they're dealing with that. So what I would say to you is, if you don't know anybody specifically that does them, try to find somebody in your area, because as I say, when the world goes back to being able to meet again, we love kind of would say meetups and educational talks in present, and we'll often kind of would say have like tour events and stuff like that. So there's a huge amount of scope for people to meet up with other like-minded individuals and to get further education around it. So that would be my advice.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, I'm just thinking to myself. Yeah. So yeah, really do get in touch with so your website. It's very, what I like there that you said is, it's giving people the information so that they take the responsibility themselves and become proactive in their own managing their own well-being. Because I know here, if something goes wrong on a Friday, well, you know, the doctor isn't open the weekend, the pharmacy isn't open on Sunday. You know, it happens, and they're allowed to have their time off, but it's so nice if you can do something for yourself and know what to do.
And most ailments that we get are that people like this is one of the things that they've noticed with lockdown is the doctors' offices and hospitals are quieter because people are not coming in. And it's not, I don't necessarily think that that's the most positive thing, but I often think a lot of doctors are completely overwhelmed now, because people are going to them with things that, you know, we really should be able to manage a little bit more at home if we had the right to do so. So I think like, if we're looking to change our healthcare system, I'm always saying to people, it's never going to change from the top down. It's from the bottom up that we're going to get the change. So if we're able to manage our own little kind of ailments at home, that's going to take the pressure off across the board. And if we get more empowered in our own health and our own education about how to look after our health, we're less likely to need as much of the medical model that we have at the moment. So, which is a great thing.
Absolutely.
And it's there for us when we do need it for proper things then, basically.
Yes, no, that's very, very good point. Yeah. And one other thing there that before I let you go and have your cuppa is, if we're using these essential oils, which is great, you know, and I know we do things step by step. Sometimes doing too much at once is overwhelming. But when you think of all the cleaning products, as you mentioned, the synthetic candles, all these other products, which can be quite toxic if we read the labels, are we wasting, well, I don't mean wasting our time, but if we're using all these products and then we have the essential oils, do we need to look at that area as well, step by step, maybe?
Yeah. That is why we do continuous education, because it's very like, it depends on the stage of your wellness journey that you're on. We're all at different stages.
Yeah, exactly.
And for some people, they're really ready straight away to completely embrace this whole wellness lifestyle, to cut out toxins from their homes, all the rest of it. But if you have, I would say, a busy mom, she's working, her partner's working, and she's coming home to a few kids, that's a really, you know, sometimes they can't start thinking about those things. So I always think that, you know, you have to look at where your health is at. If you're somebody who is dealing with, we'll say, more chronic illnesses, you're more inclined to look at the bigger picture as regards what's around you. But you have to kind of take it at the stage that's right for you right now as well.
Yeah. What works for you, and rather begin somewhere and take that action. And then gradually, when you're ready, you'll get there, rather than not starting at all because it just seems too much.
Absolutely.
Fabulous. Fabulous, Annmarie. It's been amazing to chat to you. And can you tell us, I will put a link in, like I said, but if people want to know, anyone who's listening now, where, because I know I'm definitely interested, where, and it is a priority, we need to make our health and our well-being a priority. And like you said, not leave it to others to always solve our problems, which what we can do for ourselves. You know, be proactive, preventative measures, and we will feel much happier and healthier as a result. So where can people get hold of you? And you can then send me your links and I will add it in as well.
Yep. So my email is anmarieoilwhisperer@gmail.com. My website is not live yet, so I'm not, I think I should be by the end of this month, so the next few days, hopefully.
Right.
And other than that, you can get me on Facebook or Instagram at Annmarie Oil Whisperer.
Annmarie Oil Whisperer. Yeah. Oh, that's such a nice name, and that'll be easy to remember. And that's so good that I love the educational side to it, because then we feel like we're empowering ourselves. Often you're given something and now just this is what you do, and it takes away the control from that person. But this way we reclaim that control, which is really great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much. I feel so informed now. I'm going to, you know,
that's brilliant.
No, really, that has been so useful. And if we have spoken or haven't spoken about any ailments that you would like to know, you can get hold of Annmarie directly. And she's so lovely, as you can tell, and or she wouldn't be here. Or put it in the comments, and we'll do our best to support you. Thank you, Annmarie.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you so much for having me. You're a star.
Okay.